If you're an early stage business owner, you've fallen into the trap of just fixing your website. Everyone's out here trying to obsess over their headline, obsess over perfect copy, obsess over their color palette, and get the perfect offers on their website because we have this assumption that our website will sell our services. But especially in the early years, that's not true. So in this video, we're going to talk about what you legitimately need in your website in the early years. And spoiler alert, it's not a $5,000 site. And we're going to talk about when you should make investments in your website and what investments you should make. Because trying to perfect your website for the final version of your business in the early years is actually holding your business back. So in this video, we're going to cover 3 core truths that matter more than any fancy design or clever tagline. Let's dive in. So if you've overspent on your websites in the early stage of business, you are not alone. I've been there. When I started out in business, I was sold a $10,000 website package when branding because I was told that it would be copy that would sell my services themselves. And spoiler alert, that did not happen. I was left with a website that was functional, but I couldn't update it myself. When I changed, when my business changed, when my offers changed, when my company changed, was left with a very overbuilt website that didn't evolve with me. But yet 4 years later, I've invested another $10,000 in building a website. Let me tell you about why I've done that in this video. So if you've done this in your website and you've overinvested and you've overbuilt, you are not alone. But I'm going to tell you when you should make investments in your website and what investments you should make and maybe when you shouldn't. So we're going to cover 3 core truths in this video. So core truth number 1 is accuracy over perfection. So your website is a snapshot of your current work. It doesn't need to be clever or gorgeous or elaborate, but it does need to be accurate and it does need to reflect the truth of your business today. So when I talk about accuracy versus perfection, in the early stages of your business, you may think you want to work with one type of individual or organization, but you may go from B2C to B2B. Or you may want to solve one type of problem, but you've actually shifted to solving a different type of problem. Or you want to emphasize one offer structure. Maybe you, for me, I wanted to be a fractional COO when I started, and that's not what I do anymore. So we want to make sure our website is accurate. It reflects changing offers, changing positioning, changing your client roster and client base. It needs to be clear and not outdated. So we don't want to leave outdated services or vague messaging from 2 years ago. So if you are working with individuals and you kind of leave individual focus copy on your website, but yet you have shifted to a B2B or corporate focus page, we need to update your copy. You probably don't need to update a whole lot of other things about your website, but you do need to make sure that it's accurate because you do want to be proud of sending people to your website and make sure it at least represents what you do. So it doesn't need to be super comprehensive and it doesn't need to be super perfect and it doesn't need to be the most accurate representation of every feature set that's in your website, but it needs to be clear and accurate as to who and how you serve. And also when I say accuracy, you should make sure your name is on your website. I found a website. It was a sponsor for a conference that was in town. And I clicked on the website, no name. I clicked on the about page. There was no name. I couldn't actually, I'm like, who is this? There was no name anywhere on the website. So we want to review for accuracy. We want to make sure that, again, it reflects our positioning. So one of my clients changed from focusing on one population to another, and it was outdated. And so she needed to do a bit of a website cleanup before she started marketing to companies. So again, when you're talking about accuracy, it doesn't have to be a super complicated WordPress, super tricked out site. A simple $20 card.co website will do the trick for you. You want to have it be easy for you to update and accurate, not super tricked out, particularly at the early stages. So for my business, part of what was not accurate was I had an overbuilt offers page that was focusing on fractional COO and scale work. And people would continue thinking of me as a fractional COO because I didn't have the skills to update my website to reflect that was no longer my offer structure. So I had an outdated website for a year while I worked on birthing my new one, which now has very clear offers. Sure, the feature set of these offers is clear-ish, but it's not It allows me the ability to flex what is actually included in my offers pretty easily without having to rebuild an entire sales page from scratch. So again, we want to be accurate versus having it be perfect. So that's core truth number one. So core truth number two, particularly if you sell services early on, people are buying you, not buying your offers. So we tend to think that we need these overbuilt, overwrought sales pages with all the features and the benefits, and it's productized and it has all the bullets of what we want to include. And you're still figuring it out. Hell, I'm still figuring it out. So unless you are selling an offer where it needs to be so clear, because it's usually productized, it's usually some kind of course or low ticket offer, or again, a digital product where people are going to push the button to buy. If you're not selling an offer like that, you're doing some kind of consulting work, you're doing some kind of service, you're doing some kind of coaching or consulting, your offers need to be an invitation as to how to work with you, because people are buying you, not buying something specific that's off the shelf, that's not customized. You want to highlight your philosophy, the voice, the way you work. They are buying you based on a conversation, a referral, your presence. Your website's just there to back you up. So I always say the offers on your website should be an invitation and a starting point for a conversation, not a vending machine. Do talk about how you work and how you generally structure your offers and make it clear that this is the starting point. Like if someone comes to me and says, I want 2 calls a month and I want this and I want that. And I'm like, oh, I price it the way I need to price it. I do it. So I don't want to lock people into something overbuilt and overstructured before I know if that's actually what I want to sell long term. So don't overbuild detailed offer pages if you're not selling with a button. If you're selling with a button, which means you're selling at scale, you want to be able to answer people's questions on the page because you probably don't want a sales call. But if you're selling something that's over 4 figures, they're probably going to get on the phone with you and you can have a conversation about their needs. So it's a starting point for an invitation versus an accurate, this is exactly my price. This is exactly what's included. Part of the reason is as you're a growing business owner, you want to reserve the right to change what's included. For me, I started with 3 months in my core offer, and then I decided that wasn't long enough, so I changed the feature set. But if I lock into a very, very specific offer structure for very, very specific things, and I don't have the flexibility to change it, then I would have been locked in really early. Also, you don't want to turn your site into a menu. Okay, I have all these things they can choose from. That confuses people. You want to make it clear as to how you work, but you don't want it to be a potpourri of options because then people end up with analysis paralysis and you look like a vending machine. You look like I'm just going to pick things. You want to make it simple and easy for people to understand the ways to work with you. And if they need something else, you have a lot of options that you can pull from, but they don't all need to be in front and center and confuse people. So again, illustrate how you work versus having everything that you do be like an a la carte option that they can order off a menu. You want to emphasize your working style, your values and philosophies. Again, you want to keep your offers loose, avoid locking yourself into specific structures. And again, you want to focus on social proof rather than a laundry list of features. Again, for my business, I had a couple of offers that were really quite long and I didn't want to offer them anymore, but I didn't have the patience to go back and tweak all the offers. I had a strategy session that had a whole page to it. I had too many offers and it was really confusing people. And when people would get on the phone with me, they're like, I want to work with you. How do we work? And I'm like, all right, well, they hadn't read the sales page, or they may have read a couple, but they're like, I'm so confused. Now I have 3 clear offers. And because I've been doing this for a while, but also when someone says, I want to work with you, you know what we do? We customize if required in order to meet their goals. So again, people are buying you, not specifically buying your offers, unless you are, again, selling something that isn't customized. You're selling something that is a group. You're selling something that is push the button to buy. Then you want to make it very clear. But if you're buying a service, you're buying consulting, you're buying something that's totally going to be the specific deliverables are going to be tailored to every client. Be very clear about your process, but don't have to worry about building out an incredibly long feature set because it's overkill and people will want to customize it anyways, especially early on. And then core truth number 3, show how you think, not just what you do. So again, in your website, you are building trust. And what builds trust isn't a pretty homepage. It's giving people a sense of your perspective. You want to let them see how you think. You want to let people be able to spend time with you without having to pump out social media content, to pump out email newsletters, to pump out material. You want people to be able to see what you think on your website without you having to be on the content hamster wheel. So what that turns into a lot of people is they have a blog and it's outdated as hell. I'm a big fan of evergreen content pieces. I love a good content piece, but my best article, the article that's performed the best for me, was written in 2022. But if I have just a blog post that's from 2022, people will think it's old. So we want to have a mix of up-to-date content or a way to hide that it's seminal content in a way that makes people understand your best of pieces and lets people know that your thought leadership is up to date, even if these are classic blog pieces. So you want to add lots of content to your site that demonstrates your thinking. Instead of having a blog that you never update, you want to have a curated insights or resources pages. Have like the best content available in an organized fashion for people to fall into your body of work without you having to continually publish new pieces. A few high quality articles or podcast episodes are better than nothing, or worse, outdated content. You want to build content that builds trust before they talk to you. You can reference all that content in welcome emails and follow-ups and during sales calls. So in all of my welcome emails, I reference articles on my blog, and those articles all link to each other. So again, I'm not selling a specific offer. I'm selling how I think. So some strategies based on what I've learned is, again, on my old site, you can see that I had some of my best and most seminal pieces were hidden under, a year's worth of most recent blog posts. So on my website, my old website, I had a resources section. I even had a blog header section with the best content for if you're starting, growing, or scaling. So in my new website, I've taken it a step further. I have what's called collections. So I've organized all my blogs by content and by system, but I also have an entire set of pages that is a multimedia experience that walks people through my philosophy. So we have a collections homepage. We have the design the business page, which has a link to my best quizzes, my best resources. It's a multimedia experience. It's a quiz. It's a video. It's an article. It's a YouTube playlist. And I have this for design the business, build the business. I have this for run the business. So someone can land on my site and spend, no joke, hours learning about my philosophy in evergreen content. They have no idea how old any of these pieces are. It looks like fresh, current thought leadership without me having to do a lot of things, without me having to keep a blog up to date. Now, of course, I have the blog underneath, which is also categorized. But again, people can learn from me, spend time on my site, become aware of me. And so when they go to the offer, it's not about, they're not comparing the features to each other and they're not looking at all the specifics. They're like, oh, I really appreciate how she thinks. I want to learn more. I want to step into that world. So this is what you should do in the early stages of business. So we want to make sure what we have is accurate. We want to make sure we are focusing more on who we are and how we think versus focusing on overbuilt offer pages. And we want to make sure that our content and our thought leadership appears current, even if it's seminal content. So don't let an old blog make it look like you are not creating great content. Just because your best pieces are from a few years ago, don't let them be hidden and don't let that be a liability. Structure your website so that your best content, even if it's old, right on top, and then you disguise if you're not keeping it updated, because you might not need to keep blogging every week, but you don't want it to look like you've abandoned it. So those are the 3 core truths when you're starting your business. You don't need a $10,000 website, don't need fixed firm offers, and you don't need all the tricked out things that they'll sell you at the beginning. As you start to gain patterns, you start to know exactly who you're working with, then you're going to want to start thinking about productizing. You will have more structure and outcomes in your sales pages. You're going to have a little bit more meat on the bone when it comes to your offer. You don't need to worry about that, because until you have a lot of people coming to you who have never heard about you before and need to be buying without a conversation with you, your website is there to back you up, not sell on your behalf. Your offer should include your body of work and a sales call, because again, most of the people who find your website in the first couple of years of doing business are going to have heard from you from somewhere else. And your website just needs to be like, yes, this is accurate. This is how she thinks. Let me be in conversation. So if you remember nothing else, Your website should be accurate, not clever. Your clients are buying you, not your homepage. And the most important thing is to show how you think, not have a variety, poo-poo platter menu of options. Let your website evolve. Make sure it's built in a way that you can update it as your business grows with you, and it is not on a platform you don't understand, you don't know how to work with, and you need to pay a lot of money every time you want to make a change. So if you are in the middle of a website revamp or trying to figure out what to include, drop a comment, let me know where you're stuck. I'll point you to what matters most. Let me know what mistakes you have made when investing in your website in the early years and what you wish you wouldn't do again. All right, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I'll see you next week. Deeper Foundations.